The Gum at the Door-to-Door team will be in your neighborhood very soon. Gum at the For the people, by the people.
What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home. A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Police fire tear gas to prevent brawl between fishing communities in Multilateral. UNHRC resolution on Sri Lanka to be voted on tomorrow. Minister Ali Sabri to hold ground.
මේකෙන් උත්සාහ කරන්නේ හියුමන් මානව හිමිකම් කියන මේ ආයුධය උපයෝගී කරගෙන ජීවිතාන්තය දක්වාම අපිව පාලනය කිරීම සඳහා යොදා ගැනීමට උත්සාහ කිරීම.
Release the convener of the IUSF. Opposition leader requests in Parliament. Debate on Sri Lanka's 22nd constitutional amendment may be stalled.
අපේ පක්ෂයේ බහුතරයක් ඉන්න මතයක මේ 19 නැවත ගෙනීම සඳහා කරන ප්‍රයෝගකාරී වැඩපිළිවෙල.
District judges and magistrates move court against Sanath Dishanta for contempt of court. Telecommunication charges hiked, gas prices drop. Gum at the launches the 6th edition of its door-to-door campaign.
First up in news here at home, Sri Lanka police fired tear gas in Multilateral today to prevent a brawl from taking place between two groups of fishermen.
Fishermen from Multilateral have been protesting opposite the Multilateral Fisheries Office for 3 days, citing several demands including a ban on illegal fishing methods and the transfer of corrupt officials. While this protest was taking place, another group marched in protest from the Multilateral bus terminal demanding that a certain type of fishing net locally known as the Surukkudala be permitted to be used for fishing, though it has been banned in Sri Lanka. The group then attempted to march towards the Multilateral Fisheries Office. Despite the Sri Lanka police attempting to prevent them marching ahead, the group broke through and Sri Lanka police were forced to fire tear gas to disperse the crowd. After tear gas was fired, the fishermen who demanded permission to use the banned fishing net protested opposite the Multilateral District Secretariat. They handed over a letter to the Multilateral District Secretary and thereafter, with police and military protection, handed over a letter to the Multilateral Fisheries Department as well. The group thereafter moved away. However, the fishermen who want to ban the use of the said nets continued with their protest. A protest organized by the Joint Trade Union of Petroleum, Electricity and Ports was held opposite the Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited in Kolonnava on Wednesday. It was held to oppose the decision taken to interdict Bandara Arambekumbura, the secretary of the Ceylon Petroleum Nidahas Sevaka Sangamaya. Bandara Arambekumbura was interdicted, claiming the reputation of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation had been tarnished following a statement he made during a media briefing on the 16th of last month claiming that substandard crude oil had been imported to the oil refinery in Kolonnava. Why were his duties suspended? They claimed the reputation was tarnished. Refineries are given the crude oil named Ural, which is harmful to the environment, communities as well as the refinery itself. This clearly states 58% is furnace oil. Only 2,000 is required, but 3,185 is produced. These cannot be given to power plants or industries. This has a sulfur content of more than 2.5%. This is below standard. The government brought disrepute. Fishermen in Multilateral are being tear-gassed. So are the farmers. Students were tear-gassed yesterday. Kanchana's actions have caused the entire country to face tear-gas attacks. You cannot stop this by interdicting employees. The secretary, who is currently interdicted, was also present at the protest. I revealed this 2 weeks ago when the crude oil vessel was arriving, but now everyone is talking about it. What I said was, this type of crude does not suit for our refinery. My intention was to encourage the minister to import suitable crude oil. I am a leader of a trade union with a membership of more than 4,000. I have a right to speak against this.
The core group at the UN Human Rights Council is preparing to bring forward a resolution on Sri Lanka tomorrow. Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Ali Sabri told reporters from Geneva that human rights is being used as a tool to perpetually keep Sri Lanka in the agenda.
Resolution or Sri Lanka had been on the agenda since 2009, time to time. Irrespective of the government, irrespective of the political parties in power, irrespective of the leadership who is there, the country Sri Lanka had been perpetually on the agenda. So whatever you deliver, they will continue with a new team, and this will remain. So if anyone is saying that this is been targeting a particular government or particular leader, we are all misled by that. That is not the case. There is this continuous push to keep on the agenda, use the human right as a tool to control the manner in which affairs in Sri Lanka has been done. And unfortunately, until the recent economic crisis, Sri Lanka was on a good path compared to what it used to be. Now people have forgotten before 2009. So we explained this to the core group. So therefore, in principle, we have opposed this.
Sri Lanka is gearing up to respond to the resolution at the 51st session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva on Thursday. The core group at the United Nations Human Rights Council has produced a 19-point resolution on Sri Lanka. This is a draft resolution and it has received the support of 30 other countries. The core group on Sri Lanka comprises the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Canada, Germany, Malawi, Montenegro, North Macedonia and the United States of America. The first 2 points in the draft resolution have welcomed Sri Lanka's engagement with the Office of the UN Human Rights Commissioner. However, almost 9 of the 19 points mentioned in the draft resolution express serious concern over the economic crisis and the recent violations of human rights in Sri Lanka. The draft resolution expresses concern at the human rights impact of the economic crisis, including as a result of increased food insecurity, severe shortages in fuel, shortages in essential medicines and reductions in household incomes. The core group also expresses concern at other human rights developments since April 2022, including violence against and the arrests of peaceful protesters, as well as violence against government supporters, resulting in deaths, injuries, destruction and damage to the houses of members of parliament. It also calls upon the government of Sri Lanka to address the ongoing economic crisis, including by investigating and, where warranted, prosecuting corruption, including where committed by public and former public officials, and stands ready to assist and support independent, impartial and transparent efforts in this regard. The core group calls on the government of Sri Lanka to protect civil society actors, including human rights defenders, to investigate any attacks and to ensure a safe and enabling environment in which civil society can operate free from hindrance, surveillance, insecurity and threat of reprisals. Interestingly, the report of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights reported on economic crimes that have taken place in Sri Lanka.
If economic crimes have taken place, legal action will be taken as per the Sri Lankan law. Various parties have already sought legal action. However, we accept that Sri Lanka needs economic reforms. The UNHRC must follow matters related to human rights. This is why the UNHRC is perpetually keeping us in the agenda. They intervene in every matter, irrespective of the fact that it does not concern them. In the future, they might even say that there are mistakes in cricket as well.
Point 8 in the draft resolution states that the core group recognizes the importance of preserving and analyzing evidence relating to violations and abuses of human rights and related crimes in Sri Lanka with a view to advancing accountability, and decides to extend and reinforce the capacity of the Office of the High Commissioner to collect, consolidate, analyze and preserve information and evidence, and to develop possible strategies for future accountability processes for gross violations of human rights.
Make it this is a very dangerous thing. That what they are trying to do is to, and already on the 46th one they introduced that, they want to reinforce that, giving power and money to collect evidence against Sri Lanka and use it to prosecute Sri Lankan war heroes and people who are responsible bringing peace for this country, to prosecute them outside the jurisdiction of Sri Lanka, which we cannot agree. That violates the constitution, that violates the separation of power, that violates the independence of our judicial activity. So therefore, we have told this is unnecessary, uncalled for, we cannot agree, and we will do it in our country and allow us time and space.
47 countries will exercise their vote at the UNHRC session, and almost 30 countries have decided to co-sponsor the resolution on Sri Lanka.
We know that though the wider membership is 193 is overwhelmingly sympathetic towards Sri Lanka, the voting membership is 47, which is being totally dominated by a group with their economic and other power. Whether we, irrespective of the results, we cannot agree or co-sponsor that, because that will go against our people. In order to safeguard sovereignty and the integrity, we will continue to resist this together with our friends. But unfortunately, the composition of the Human Rights Council had changed, and now many who voted with us and our friends and like-minded group the last time is no longer members of the Human Rights Council. So therefore, we are in a difficult situation. That is the reality. So without the support of the country concerned, can the others impose on us? So that is why that is our position at this point in time.
We are near a total breakdown is the title of the latest report by Amnesty International on protecting the rights to health, food and social security in Sri Lanka.
Amnesty International states that the people's right to health has been threatened in the economic crisis, and serious shortages in essential and life-saving drugs and equipment emerged as one of the major concerns in Sri Lanka as the economic crisis deepened. Amnesty International notes that the fuel shortages have made transport either unavailable or extremely expensive and made it difficult, if not impossible, for people to physically access healthcare services. It also added that the people's right to food is also at risk as food inflation in Sri Lanka has become alarmingly high. Commenting on the country's debt, the government of Sri Lanka is currently in discussions with a range of creditors and lenders on restructuring Sri Lanka's debt. Amnesty International states that these actors all have human rights responsibilities, and the outcomes of these discussions have significant human rights impacts. Amnesty International states debt restructuring should enable Sri Lanka to service its external debts without compromising its capacity to fulfill its international human rights obligations. It recommends that the Sri Lankan government should reform existing social assistance programs in a manner that offers comprehensive social protection coverage and moves away from narrowly targeting particular groups. Amnesty International says that the Sri Lankan government should increase expenditure on social assistance programs to respond to the growing need for support and ensure allocations are sufficient to enable the right to an adequate standard of living for everyone. Sri Lanka's multilateral, bilateral and private creditors should act in accordance with their human rights responsibilities while negotiating Sri Lanka's debt restructure, ensure debt relief, and consider all options for debt relief, including debt cancellation. It also notes that bilateral and multilateral donors should support Sri Lanka with all possible financial and technical assistance in a manner that allows the government to strengthen human rights protections for people in the country. Amnesty International also added the Sri Lankan government should avoid harmful austerity measures inconsistent with human rights and ensure that future loan agreements, in particular those involving conditions linked to economic, social and fiscal policy reforms, are transparent and available for public scrutiny.
Concerns were raised in Parliament today with regard to the protection of Basanta Mudalige, the Inter-University Students' Federation convener, who is currently being detained under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. However, the ruling faction stressed on the need to take immediate action to control certain actions committed by the IUSF.
Vasanta
Mudalige, Venerable Galveva Siridhammathero and Hashantha Gunatilaka have been detained under the Prevention of Terrorism Act in Tangol under a 90-day detaining order. It has been more than 48 days. Honorable Prime Minister, what is that crime they committed? We get to know that in the night Vasanta Mudalige is taken to Malbana, Kadawatha, Gampaha and Navagamua. We don't understand the motive for this. Why can't you do this during the daytime? They will assassinate Vasanta Mudalige and tell us he tried to escape, so we shot him.
We
will inform the security forces about this. If there are no allegations and the investigations are over, there's no point of keeping them in detention. That's what the law suggests.
I lost my father while many others also lost their loved ones due to the war. There is no issue in the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Please listen to me. I accept the murder of parliamentarian Athukorala as an act of terror. Are you suggesting that Vasanta Mudalige is responsible for the murder of parliamentarian Athukorala?
You claim that you are against violence. These are the ones who carried out ragging at the Peradeniya University recently. They are the ones who led the Aragalaya. They set 600 houses ablaze. They led these attacks. Today death threats are made on the Dean of the Peradeniya Science Faculty. When actress Damita joined his party, he is now trying to back the people who got involved at the Aragalaya.
Take action against ragging. We too condemn such acts. What I am trying to say here is to not use the Prevention of Terrorism Act to detain innocent people. We condemn terrorism.
It's always the children of the poor in this country who goes to these state universities. They are under a huge pressure because of the ragging in these universities. Then on the other hand, they have been forced to join political meetings and rallies. Parents are crying out their woes at us.
The Dean has made a complaint to police and even all Sinhala newspapers have reported on this. They have said that sending the Dean home is not a big deal since they already succeeded in sending Gota home. Speaker, this is a serious situation. While our opposition leader stands for democracy in this house, these student leaders are spreading fascism, violence and brutality within these universities.
I request this house to not ruin our future through politics. It is a disaster. Not only the rights of the students are violated here, even the rights of the lecturers are in danger today. There can be issues, but we as a civilized society, we should never promote violence within universities or even outside there in public.
While a myriad of crises plagues the citizenry of Sri Lanka, one movement has stood tall. Today, Gammadda, which is perpetually for the people, by the people, launched its latest endeavor, and that is the 6th edition of its door-to-door campaign.
Gammadda door-to-door. This year's edition of Gammadda's door-to-door campaign kicked off from the Jaffna, Matale and Kalutara districts. The objective of the door-to-door initiative is to gather scientific data on the issues faced by average Sri Lankans, analyze them and propose sustainable solutions thereafter. The University of Peradeniya has joined hands with Gammadda, similar to previous years, to make this initiative a success. The primary task of this year's campaign is to comprehend the ground reality faced by Sri Lankans across the island owing to the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crisis that ensued thereafter. The Gammadda team assigned to Matale toured across many villages situated in the Vilgamur Divisional Secretariat. This is where R.M. Ekanayaka resides. He is a farmer in the village of Idambatwala. This structure, which they call home, houses 5 people. Although 2 children who are of schooling age reside in this home, they have been forced to abandon their education owing to acute poverty. The Gammadda team in the Jaffna district visited the villages of Sandilippai, Uyarappulam, Ilavale, Sillale and Chulipuram today. A common inconvenience faced by residents in these areas was the inability to cultivate their lands due to the fuel shortage. Securing jobs for a daily wage has also proven difficult as a result of the current situation. Another major concern in these areas is the lack of access to potable water. This has caused many in the area to suffer from kidney-related diseases. Another Gammadda team toured the villages of Millaniya, Uduwara, Muapattiya and other areas in the Kalutara district today. The lack of a proper road network is the key issue faced by the residents of the Muapattiya village. This has compelled residents to travel more than 9 kilometers to reach a main road that could have been shortened to a mere kilometer had a proper access road to the village been constructed. Area residents, including school children, are made to endure a grueling struggle each day to travel owing to this reason. The current economic crisis has further compounded their woes. Our teams will continue to tour many more villages in Jaffna, Matale and Kalutara, even tomorrow.
We have more news in store for you, but first a quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, 25% for 2 months, 25.5% for 4 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
මොකද මහත්තයා මේ නෑ මේ ගෙදර සිංක් එකේ අයි මහත්තයා ස්ලෝන් නෙවෙයිද දැම්මේ හදිස්සියට බාල පයිප් එකක් දැම්මේ නැද්ද මුදලාලි ඊයේ පෙරේදා කඩේ රිපෙයාර් කරන්න ගෙනාපු ගම් චුට්ටක් මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට හොඳම විසඳුම ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටක් හැබැයි ඉක්මනින් දාගන්න ස්ලෝන් පයිප් එකක්
ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැම ගෙදරකම සිටිය යුතු ජලනල කාර්මිකයා දැන් රඟම ග්‍රොසරියෙන් මිලදී ගන්න.
A parliamentary debate seeking the 22nd Amendment to Sri Lanka's constitution is scheduled to be held tomorrow, or rather 6th and 7th. However, uncertainty looms over this debate. Now the debate on the bill can be stalled due to opposing view within the ruling Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna.
The Ministerial Consultative Committee on Justice that met on Tuesday had agreed to debate the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution. The Communications Department of the Sri Lankan Parliament quoted Sri Lanka's Justice Minister as saying that the 22nd Amendment will be a more progressive one that goes beyond the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. The Justice Minister had called for another meeting with the ruling faction on Wednesday. However, none of the ruling party MPs confirmed whether the 22nd Amendment will be produced in Parliament on Thursday. A majority in the Parliament maintains one view. There is doubt among many of the members as to whether the 19th Amendment would pave the way for anarchy and division in the country. It is observed that the matter should be deeply investigated. At this moment, the people are not calling for a constitutional amendment. The people would rise against the attempts that are being made for the need of one person. Here is the constitutional amendment presented to the Supreme Court. This is to amend the 20th Amendment. This does not mention the period of dissolving Parliament. However, at the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Justice, the Justice Minister noted that many SLPP MPs are of the view that the 4.5-year period must not be changed. If this matter was presented to the Supreme Court, the court would definitely say that it needs to be passed by a special majority or at a people's referendum. That is why it was not produced to the Supreme Court. At the ruling party meeting on Tuesday, questions were raised on who prepared the 22nd Amendment. Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa had said it was prepared for the needs of Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The 22nd Amendment says Parliament can be dissolved in 2.5 years. It notes that dual citizens cannot enter Parliament and also relates to the Constitutional Council. It is now reported that the ruling faction is not in favour of this. Maybe Ranil Wickremesinghe does not want to vote. Then he can secure the powers of the President in the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. The government is indecisive on this. They are not sure about presenting it to Parliament on Thursday. Serious issues had arisen at the ruling party meeting. Some MPs had opposed it. The government must explain what is going on. The government must call for elections to form a new parliament, even if they like it or not. However, some MPs won't vote because they fear the president must dissolve parliament and because they fear elections.
Jaffna District MP G.G. Ponnambalam said that the present parliament does not represent the will of the people, as the government itself had accepted that its mandate has been rejected.
The failure of this country is not just a weak parliament, but also the executive presidency, but also the overall system of governance. We've had a unitary constitution for the last 75 years, which has been abject failure. Even the government accepts that that mandate has been rejected by the people. It is because the government itself accepted that the mandate has been rejected by the people is that you had a prime minister resigning first and then thereafter the president. So when the mandate has been rejected and when the president and the prime minister previously have resigned accordingly, then you must accept that this house does not in fact represent the will of the people. And one of the other demands that the people have been making is that this parliament must be dissolved. So that element of the people's wish is still being rejected. The call to try and make out that parliament is above everything else, I think is a very dangerous one. I think today's parliament reflects with the very weak footing of that argument.
Sri Lanka's Court of Appeal has issued summons on State Minister Sanath Nishantha to appear in court next week.
A Court of Appeal on Wednesday issued summons on State Minister Sanath Nishantha, requesting him to submit reasons as to why he should not be penalised with regard to the allegations of committing contempt of court on the 13th of October 2022. The appeal court issued summons after considering a petition submitted by the Sri Lanka Judicial Service Officers Association. Nishantha was issued a summons by appeal court justices Nishanka Bandula Karunaratne and R. Gurusinghe. President's Counsel Romesh De Silva, who appeared for the petitioner, stated that the magistrate's bail granting process was challenged by a statement on the 23rd of August. The President's Counsel stated that the State Minister had emphasized that the rule of law would be in jeopardy due to the process of granting bail. The President's Counsel emphasized that this can be considered as a serious insult to the judiciary. Satisfied with the facts presented, the bench ordered State Minister Sanath Nishantha to appear in court on the 13th of October and issued summons as well. In relevance to the same accusation, two petitions filed by two other lawyers are also scheduled to be called on the 13th of October. The Court of Appeal has already issued summons to Nishantha to appear before the court on the date with regard to the above two petitions.
Biz Fast.
Mobile and pay TV charges have been revised with effect from today. This is in lieu of the recovery of the Social Security Contribution Levy of 2.5% introduced by the SSCL Act number 25 of 2022. Electrogas will reduce the prices of its cooking gas cylinders with effect from midnight today.
The price of a 12.5 kilogram gas cylinder will be reduced by 271 rupees, and following the revision, the new price will be 4,280 rupees. The price of a 5 kilogram gas cylinder has reduced by 107 rupees to 1,720 rupees. At the same time, the 2.3 kilogram gas cylinder will be reduced by 48 rupees to 800 rupees.
The men and women of Sri Lanka Army are not only brave in the battlefield, but also brave in track and field as well. Many Sri Lanka Army men and women have brought glory to the country in multiple sport disciplines. Tonight, it's about them.
Sri Lanka Army, living legends.
The men and women of the Sri Lanka Army have decorated the motherland in gold, silver and bronze over the years in multiple sports disciplines. Did you know that Duncan White, who won Sri Lanka's first ever Olympic medal at the Olympics in 1948 in the 400 meters hurdles, was in fact a major in the Sri Lanka Army?
Yes, Cochran wins by 6 yards. White leads second and Larson of Sweden third. Cochran's time was 61.
Did you also know that Susantika Jayasinghe, who won a silver medal in the women's 200 meters sprint in the 2000 Olympics, is a staff sergeant in the Sri Lanka Army?
1997.
In addition, Sri Lanka secured 4 medals in the Paralympics, and all these medals were won by the para-athletes of the Sri Lanka Army. The Directorate of Sri Lanka Army Band and Performing Arts is located in Telawala, Ratmalana. The Directorate of the Army Band and Performing Arts renders its services for multiple events, including those within the Sri Lanka Army, as well as state and non-state events. Details of the first Sri Lanka Army Band dates back to 1881. The Sri Lanka Army Western and Eastern bands feature a talented pool of musicians. Performing Arts Group of the Sri Lanka Army was formed in 1971, and the troupe is well talented in local and international dance disciplines. The Sri Lanka Corps of Military Police was founded on the 10th of October 1949. The increase of strength in the Corps paved the way for opening a regimental centre at Narayanpeta in 1990. The main duty of the Sri Lanka Corps of Military Police is related to the field of policing. The Sri Lanka Corps of Military Police engaged in provost duty in multiple military events, and they are tasked with maintaining discipline among officers and other ranks of the Sri Lanka Army, and also with investigations.
The Roshan Mahanama Trust, a movement committed to empower Sri Lankan communities, was launched in Colombo.
Former Sri Lankan Test cricketer and ICC match referee Roshan Mahanama launched the Roshan Mahanama Trust with a vision to provide a platform for all stakeholders to join in unison in order to enrich the lives of underprivileged children of Sri Lanka.
From my point of view, we should not wait for government or local bodies to always initiate worthy projects or to engage in charitable projects. We all have a social responsibility, and our actions as individuals must always benefit the society. And for me, money comes last. If you put money first for fame, power, then you will compromise on all the other values that I just mentioned. Respect is something that you should earn and not demand. If you have good qualities and you are a good human being, you will definitely earn respect.
The Charitable Trust was officially launched to the public on Tuesday, the 4th of October 2022 at an event held in Colombo with the tagline, "Spreading Humanity Beyond Boundaries."
The 4th edition of the Savia program, supported by LOLC Holdings, seeking to support the most impoverished communities in Sri Lanka, continued on its 31st day, centering the Colombo district.
Essential relief packages are being delivered to families that need relief. at 2 locations of the Kolonnava Divisional Secretariat in Colombo. The program aims to provide nutritious meals to low-income earners in Sri Lanka.
And with that, wrap up news for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. You take care and good night.